we only have two monuments in Lisbon with this designation. The Monastery of Saint Jerome and the Tower, where we are also going to stop. These are two monuments from the 16th century that have been built by order of a Portuguese king called Manuel I. By this time, we are talking about the time of the maritime discoveries. I'm sure you've heard about all these maritime discoveries of the Portuguese. And to go back in time would be important, or to imagine how this was before, because the area we have in front of us is a little bit different from the past times. We had a wider river, and the river would basically reach the area where you have the buses right now, okay? Because of the earthquake of 1755 and the tsunami that came together with the earthquake, this area was completely changed geographically. So the river went back, and which was quite good and positive, because now we have more space here to organize everything. This monument is one of the favorite monuments in Lisbon, even for the locals. It has one of the most beautiful churches, and we are talking about a facade which has 300 meters and was more or less used as a reference for the navigators, because it was the last thing that they used to see in Lisbon when they were leaving, and the first when they were coming back. We didn't have that modern building you see over there covering a little bit the monastery, which is the cultural center. So we are very close to the Atlantic here. This is the mouth of the river almost. The river runs from the left to the right, okay? And one of the main functions of this monastery was to protect the journeys of the navigators, and they would bless the caravels exactly underneath this portal. This is the most important portal. We only have it open on Sunday mornings when we have all the masses. Otherwise, we have the side portal, which is the one we're going to use to enter the church. Here you have different elements, and they were put with this important order. If you look at the portal, it looks like you have a kind of a vertical line, and in the upper part you get to see cross. That's the cross of Christ. We used to have sails of the caravels, the red cross, symbolize the order of Christ. Whenever the navigators were arriving in these territories, it was not only for conquering these territories, but also to evangelize the area. So evangelize is a very nice word to say impose the religion, okay? So they were basically warning everyone that we were arriving there, okay? The Order of Christ replaced in Portugal the Templars, and so they had all the members, all the money that was transferred to them, and they could finance the first journeys. Then you have underneath the cross, there's still raining. There's another statue, which is the statue of Archangel Saint Michael. We are a small country, as you know, and we only have a border with a country, which is Spain. And we had lots of troubles with the Spanish, and they also did have with us. So we had many battles, and we needed much protection. So this is just one of the protections we have, Archangel Saint Michael. We have other two. So in total we have 3 protecting us, and sometimes they were not enough. Okay? So we have Archangel Saint Michael. The other 2 that are not here are Our Lady of the Conception and Saint Anthony. I don't know if you ever heard about Saint Anthony of Padua?
Yes, of course.
Be very careful, because here he's known as Saint Anthony of Lisbon, because he was born here. We don't care if he died in Italy or if he lived in Italy. He's ours, and we don't want to share him. Why? Because he's much connected with love. And all young women go to the Church of Saint Anthony. They write a note asking for a husband. So he has a very difficult task, because nowadays nobody wants to get married. No, that's another. We have another one. But maybe if you ask him gently, he will help you. Then we have in the middle of the portal the statue of Our Lady of the Wisdom Kings. And why? Because this monastery was started to be built on January the 6th, 1501. It took 1 century to be ready. That's why we have, I hate having these umbrellas, I'm sorry. This monastery to be ready took 1 century. It means that we have here different architectonical styles, we had different architects working here and different tastes. That's why, even though it took 100 years, we have basically the late Gothic style entering little by little in Renaissance, but we have a very special decoration that only exists in Portugal called the Manuelin decoration. Why do we have this strange name for the decoration? Manuelin has to do with the name of the king, Manuel. He was the founder of this monastery. He was one of the most important kings. He was ruling the country when Vasco da Gama arrived in India. He discovered the maritime way. He's buried here. Also with Pedro Álvares Cabral when he discovered Brazil, one of the most important colonies we had. So he ruled us for 2 decades and he got married for 3 times. 3 times with Spanish princesses. We didn't like the Spanish, but we needed to have this, we do now, we're good friends. We needed to keep this peace between the 2 countries. And of course that getting married with the most important princesses was very important for Portugal. Maybe we could somehow step into Spain and rule them. Never happened, never happened. Unfortunately, it was the other way round. So Manuel I got married to 2 very important princesses, the 2 first wives, not at the same time, okay, 1 at a time. The 2 were daughters of the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabel. The first one was Isabel and then Maria. The last one would be, will sound like a soap opera, would be the sister of his sister-in-law. So everyone was in family. Everything was family. It was easier like that. So basically, what do we have here? The Manuelin decoration that stands out. And you have all these symbols, which are basically maritime symbols. Things that the navigators were seeing for the first time outside of Portugal. And they needed to represent it here. Not only for the population to see, but also for the king to see what they were doing. He would be on his journeys. He would be sitting in this palace comfortably. Of course, he was paying, so he was staying here. You have maritime motives such as the ropes that were used in the vessels, fruits like tropical fruits from like the pineapple, for example, that we have never seen before. Animals like the elephant, the rhino, the hippo, clearly. And we also have very simple things like shells, corals. Because for us, it's very easy to Google everything nowadays, but they needed to go to these places and see what was new. So this was a kind of a book that they would write afterwards with all the experiences. The monastery was built also to affirm the power of King Manuel I, because he became king of Portugal because the previous king died. Usually we have a king and then we have the next king, his son. It was not like that with Manuel I. The previous king was his brother-in-law. The brother-in-law was John II. He had a son, but the son died very young. So basically, we should try to find someone to rule us, and Manuel was the chosen one. So he believed he had been chosen not only because it was the only one we had, but he had been chosen by God. So being chosen by God, he needed to have this beautiful structure. I've heard that you've been in Batalha.
Yeah.
Batalha was the pantheon for the second dynasty. But Manuel I, even though he belonged to the same dynasty, he didn't want to be in Batalha. Why? Because it was made by a previous king. So he said, I don't want to know about Batalha. I want to have a monument in Lisbon, in the capital city. I'm going to pay for it, and I'm going to have all my descendants buried there. So he created a kind of a branch from this second dynasty, and inside we have a beautiful church with many tombs. Not so many in terms of his descendants, because he had different children, but just one that became a prince, royal prince, and then became a king. and then another one that was his great-grandson. So we have two people that were kings after Manuel I, and this huge construction here. And it's also here that we do the change of the ambassadors in Lisbon. We celebrate the most important masses, and there's a huge waiting list for people to get married. Yes, everyone wants to get married here. So, inside, what are we going to see? We're going to enter together, okay? Since 5 years ago that the priest decided tour guides can't explain inside without the whisper system. So we're going to enter. If you have any questions, let me know, okay? Inside, we're going to see firstly the baptism chapel, the fountain on the right, and then on the left you have a beautiful chapel from the 17th century with a little bit of the gold that we brought from Brazil, just a little bit, okay, which represents the death of Christ. And then a little bit further on, you're going to see two tombs from the 19th century made of marble. All the rest is limestone, as well as the sidewalks that you've been stepping on. It's all limestone. We don't have much money, but we have lots of stone, so it's good. The two tombs belong to two very important Portuguese. A poet from the 16th century called Luís de Camões. He's like Cervantes in Spain, Shakespeare in England. For us, it's Camões, and we have a very strange language, as you do too. Yes. And we speak with our nose, Camões, okay? He wrote an epic poem about our history. And on the other side, so right-hand side, the poet, left-hand side, Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese navigator who discovered the maritime way to India. You're going to see that this church is way different from all the others you've seen till here, because you can see the whole church when you enter. So you don't have the triforium anymore. We have just these very thin columns because we already had other techniques, more evolved techniques. And the ceilings have this star-shaped vaulted system that are able to uncharge the weight on these very, very narrow, very thin columns, which was for the first time a big innovation. When we walk through the church, you're gonna see on the left a few doors. It was not for us to escape when we didn't want to hear the priest. It was the place where we would confess all our sins. And you'll see plenty of doors because we have lots of sins. Still nowadays. They're all closed because we use different confessionals right now. Okay, we still have sins.